5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for December 18th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Activision tries to bury its settlement on a Friday night, and Mario 64 multiplayer was actually real. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Scott McCrae, everybody. Scott, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. I'm in my fourth batch of COVID. But other than that,
sheesh,
living, surviving, just.
How does it hit you these days? Like when you get COVID now, is it like is it still just as bad as ever?
I don't know.
Yeah,
you know, that way I don't even remember anymore. All I remember is like sweat and coughing, and you know, it's persisted like that. But you know, it's not the worst anymore. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also have had like 4 jabs. So
right now, at this point, it's like, yeah, who knows if it's built up immunity and the vaccines, and then just kind of getting used to and knowing what to expect at a certain point. But hey, I'm glad you're not. It doesn't seem like you're doing too bad. I bet pretty exhausted though from getting sick for the 4th time, right?
Yeah, just you know, I've played a lot of Baldur's Gate over the weekend, so that's kind of, you know, broke my focus on it. I don't need to think about it. I can just, you know, kill goblins because
there you go.
Saw me push someone down a cliff.
That's the way to do it. Now, I want to tell you what I appreciate about you, Scott McCrae. Your name sounds very Scottish. Unlike some people like these Jordan Midlers, he sounds like he's from Idaho. I need a real Scott on this show for once. So I appreciate you coming on.
I mean, my name literally means Scottish person. I don't think my parents are very like, they didn't really think that one through, but you know.
Makes it very easy for us here in America where we're very stupid. So I appreciate that.
There you go. It's you can say it in a weird accent, but it'll work maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how are you feeling about the end of the year, catching up on games? You got any work left to do, or are you all set?
All my work is kind of for the start of next year, stuff I can't really mention at the moment, but I'm good. You know, I'm waiting because I imagine I'm going to be deep in JRPG hell for the start of next year with the likes of Persona and Yakuza Like a Dragon and Dragon's Dogma and all that coming out. So, you know, I'm taking my time to chill out with like nice short games like Baldur's Gate and you know, RoboCop.
Yeah, that is like a palate cleanser game right there for sure.
Exactly.
And then before we get on with things, I guess, you know, since people might not be aware of who you are, do you want to tell them like where they could find your work, things like that?
So I'm kind of all over the place. My news shift is for the Daily Mirror in the UK, where, under the Mirror Gaming sub banner. That's where I've done you know, a lot of my reviews this year, a lot of my interviews. I believe we're talking about some tech and stuff today, so
Ooh.
I can show that. I've got an interview up on the YouTube channel. But you know, like, mostly I'm all over the place. You'll find me in Push Square, you'll find me in Nintendo Life, you'll find me in Start Menu, which you can look at their latest post to find out my top 10 games of the year and why Pikmin 4 is the best game of the year, probably.
Yeah, let's go. That reminds me, Lexi, I'll get my write-up to you today. I started it, I just haven't sent it over, so sorry about that. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Activision to settle discrimination suit for $54 million. This comes from Jen Glennon at Kotaku. Shout out to Jen, who was on the couch for GB at night during the Game Awards. Activision Blizzard has been the subject of scrutiny for several years now due to its alleged boys club corporate culture, and now the Wall Street Journal reports the embattled gaming company will pay roughly $54 million to settle a 2021 gender discrimination and harassment lawsuit. The same lawsuit that seemingly prompted Microsoft's landmark $69 billion acquisition of the Call of Duty and Overwatch publisher that was finally greenlit in October after an 18-month legal battle. In a statement to Kotaku, an Activision Blizzard spokesperson shared further context on the settlement. We are gratified that we have reached an agreement with the California Civil Rights Department today, as the CRD has now announced in a press statement. We appreciate the importance of the issues addressed in this agreement, and we are dedicated to fully implementing all the new obligations we have assumed as part of it. We want our employees to know that, as the agreement specifies, we are committed to ensuring fair compensation and promotion policies and practices for all our employees, and we will continue our efforts regarding inclusion of qualified candidates from underrepresented communities in outreach, recruitment, and retention. There's more here. We'll get into some of it, but that's basically what they were getting in trouble for. Women weren't being paid fairly. There was no clear promotional paths for a lot of people who weren't looking like everyone else at Activision, for the most part, white men. And they had been getting in trouble for this for years. And at first they were like, hey, we are going to, and when these allegations first came out, hey, we're going to accept responsibility for this. We are going to have quarterly reports about what's going on inside there. And then very quickly that changed to, actually, we never did anything wrong. Fuck you. And those reports, we're not going to publish them for real. So now things have flipped back a little bit. But $54 million at a certain point for Activision feels a little bit like a slap on the wrist. It could have been much more. That money will go to the women who worked at Activision during that time, and some who were even contracted to work at Activision at that time. How are you feeling about this, Scott?
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. When I was reading that, I was thinking 54 million seems not that much, considering some of the stuff you heard coming out of Activision 2 years ago, including, a death, know, it seems like a bit of a, okay, yeah, just throw some money at it, it'll go away kind of situation. But I mean, there's nothing you can really say about it. It's disgusting. I'm glad, something's being done, even if it doesn't seem like enough. And I hope under Microsoft there's kind of a big shift, but
right, that's the hope, right? That would be the optimistic outcome, that things would get significantly better, or at least noticeably, measurably better under Microsoft, right?
I mean, yeah, a lot of the people are still going to be there,
Yeah.
I mean, I know Bobby himself is on his way out, or has already left. Not sure.
I mean, he's basically gone, but they said he'll be there through the end of the year.
But I can only hope that under Microsoft things are gonna get better. But these massive companies, it's kind of hard to get a dampen on some of these things, because as we've seen from countless different reports like this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it just, at a certain point, it's the system. It's going to keep happening. Staying vigilant about it is maybe the one thing we could do, other than completely disrupting the system. But yeah, and that does feel like, okay, some of that's happening here. Of course, the statement from Activision goes on to say, hey, we're grateful that the California Civil Rights Department acknowledged that no allegations were corroborated that Activision Blizzard's board of directors, including its chief executive officer, Bobby Kotick, acted improperly with regard to handling any of the instances of workplace misconduct. So, I mean, that's really, hey, we'll pay you $54 million. You say that the executives and the board are completely, clean hands and all that stuff, and we'll all go on with our day. Again, based on the reporting, it seems very unlikely that the board of directors didn't understand what was happening, what the culture was like, and especially Bobby Kotick. But I say unlikely because I don't know, and these are allegations, but the allegations were very serious. And at a certain point, if this is the culture underneath you, you're still responsible for it. At least that's how I see it. Bobby Kotick is gonna just go away, right? Is that too optimistic? That he'll he's gonna leave Activision, not be under Microsoft. He's not gonna try to start up some new gaming company, right?
It's like a cockroach kind of situation. Huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
I forget his name, but your guy who left EA and then went and fucked up Unity. John Riccatello. Yeah, there's always place for someone to kind of sneak in somewhere and get someone else. that, or he buys a football team, or he
without a doubt
goes and work in banking or something like that. I don't think he's done forever. He probably has enough money to be done forever, but not to say anything about greed or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. I wonder if there's been a single firing towards any as a part of any of this.
Early on there were some people who definitely left, and I can't remember if they were explicitly fired, but it was obvious at the time that there was some cleaning of the house, and a lot of that was people wanting to disassociate from Activision. They're like, I worked here at the time, but I don't want to take any responsibility for this. I was not involved in any of this culture. I'm going to leave, take my money from Blizzard, for example, and go start my own studio. And part of that was also hey, we hate working for Activision. The Blizzard era, or the Activision era of Blizzard, is fully here, and that sucks. But also, all of these allegations have come out, and it's not great to work here anymore. And so we saw a ton of people leave and go start their own things, and then a handful of people were definitely no, this person is trash, and many of them had already left. And I think they saw some repercussions at their next job, but I don't think many of them did. It's really depressing when you think about it in those terms of, okay, yeah, they're going to pay a speeding ticket here. The people responsible, it's hard to track down whether or not they actually paid any price, and the industry is just going to keep marching on, making more Call of Duty games. It's a bit of a bummer in those terms. The CRD did put out a statement of its own saying Activision Blizzard will take additional steps to help ensure fair pay and promotion practices at the company and provide monetary relief to women who are employees or contract workers in California between October 12th, 2015 and December 31st, 2020, a representative for the agency wrote. The agreement is still subject to court approval, so not quite done yet. Yeah, and just to put it in perspective, in 2021, the state of California estimated Activision's liability in these instances was nearly $1 billion. So, and put it in even more perspective, the very low Riot Games settlement, the one that was everyone's this isn't good enough, the $100 million, this is even less than that. And as big as Riot is, Activision actually even bigger. So it does feel like they're getting away with something here to a certain extent.
And then does Call of Duty make it a year?
Yeah. And then they put it out on a Friday night too, right, Scott? And it's this story almost slipped through for most people, but glad we got a chance to talk about it here. All right, let's move on. Elden Ring's first expansion could release in February, it's claimed. This comes from Andy Robinson at VGC. Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree expansion could release in February 2024, according to a retail listing. As captured by a Reddit post, retailer Data Blitz briefly uploaded alleged details on the upcoming Elden Ring-themed controllers from Thrustmaster. The website page claimed that the controllers would be released in February 2024 to sync with the new Shadow of the Erdtree expansion release and Elden Ring's second anniversary. There's a little bit more here, Scott, but when you hear that, does that register as that could be real? That could happen? Because for me, a lot of times, hey, things get put into retail websites all the time by people who don't know anything, and not that they should know anything, but they just are they're saving a spot for something, and they just put in a random date. This one seems a little bit more plausible, except for February's not very far. And if that was happening, I would have expected this DLC to show up at the Game Awards or something like that. I don't know. What do you think?
I was shocked that it didn't show up at the Game Awards. Because I'm pretty sure every major From Software thing in the last at least 5 or 6 years, whenever Sekiro was announced, has been a Jeff Keighley event,
right? And then the Elden Ring reveal at re-reveal at the Summer Game Fest or whatever it was very successful for them. That worked really well. You would expect them to return. I agree,
but it sounds, if you just said to me on paper, not thinking about it's 2 months away or whatever, just thinking about it, Elden Ring DLC 2024 February. In my mind, that makes sense. But now that you've pointed out, we've heard nothing since whenever it was announced. It kind of is a bit less plausible. That being said, February's packed enough already. Please don't.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are a ton of things happening very quickly next year. I can't remember who it was. I saw someone on Twitter mention hey, I was just going through the games I want to play in the first quarter of next year, and I'm going to need help. This is crazy already, and it feels like more games could get dated for the first 3 to 6 months of 2020. Is it really gonna be 2024? What a fucked up year. So yeah, I don't need a massive expansion from Elden Ring distracting me from all that. At the same time, boy, am I ready for that, because I've been like thinking about Elden Ring a lot recently. It's like I would like to get back into that. I should just wait for the DLC though. That'll be great, and I expect it to be pretty massive. I mean, they typically do relatively large scale DLC. Feels like they are taking extra time on this one to do even more, and that could be really big for Elden Ring, a game that was already very successful. If it's not in February, I guess at a certain point, that starts to feel like, man, Elden Ring came out a long time ago, and we're still waiting for the DLC. At the very least, we probably hear about this in the first couple of months of next year, right?
Yeah, I mean, but how long ago was Cyberpunk? That was about 3 years ago now as well. So it's like,
Jesus, yeah.
When you think about it like that, when you think about it as an expansion rather than a DLC or something like that, it makes a bit more sense. I mean, I believe there was a quote about it being like the size of Bloodborne or something like that,
right.
which is wild, you know. Plus, I don't know if I misread this, but I believe in that kind of slideshow they mentioned something else happening in 2025 in regards to Elden Ring, which, like, if this isn't the only DLC, that seems like what is From Software doing otherwise, you know?
Yes.
Because when is the next, Elden Ring or the next Souls game or the next Sekiro?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Bloodborne 2 because it's not happening.
No, that'll never happen. They forgot they made that. They were like, what's that game? Yeah. Games are taking longer to make, but at a certain point, From Software's done a pretty decent job of staying on a relatively frequent cadence. They did have Armored Core 6 this year, still 2023. And that was like, another team inside there. But yeah, it's okay. The Elden Ring DLC is going to come out, and it probably will still take 4 to 5 years after that for the next like Miyazaki game, I suppose. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this, and then also looking forward to see what else they might be doing. If they have more happening with Elden Ring this year, this next 12 months, I should say, yeah, that would be a lot. And I guess at a certain point that makes sense because games are taking so much longer. Giving more to Elden Ring and helping like soften that blow of having to wait so much longer, that could be very beneficial, and people would probably appreciate that.
I just hope that's like you can just go do it from your save. You don't have to do the Bloodborne thing or the Dark Souls thing. We need to play through the game to a certain point to get to the DLC. Let's just hope we can
just press a button and go. Yeah, that'd be ideal. I mean, at a certain point, yeah, I think all these expansions should be expandalones, just the standalone DLC. At a certain point, do the Miles Morales route, but that they haven't done that before, and it's like I would expect like things to be trending always in that direction. But we see like Pokemon used to basically do that. Like they would have the third game that was, for all intents and purposes, DLC for the previous gen, and then they would just put that out as a standalone game. And now they've moved towards, no, it's just DLC for the game you already own, and that seems to be working out fine for them. So as much as I'm like, I love the idea of expandalones, I don't think it's necessary. Obviously, a lot of people still buy DLC, and I guess it's the biggest proof of that, Cyberpunk this year, a huge success with Phantom Liberty. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we got a lot more news. I shouldn't say a lot more. It's going to be a slow week. The holidays are here. We got some more news. We'll get to all that right after this. All right. We're back, and I have a question. What is red and what is green? And I'm basing that on this new video footage of Mario 64 multiplayer that it's not leaked, was resurfaced, and it was actually, oh my god, this is actually got shown off to the public. The story is from Andy Robinson at VGC. The headline: first ever Mario 64 Luigi footage seemingly discovered via old VHS tape. I'm not convinced it's Luigi, but we'll get into that. 26 years after its release, the first ever footage appearing to show an early Super Mario 64 multiplayer mode with Luigi has been discovered. The footage was spotted in a video quietly uploaded to YouTube last month, which contains rare VHS footage showing Nintendo's 1995 Japanese Space World show, where it showcased the Nintendo 64 for the first time. 1 seconds long snippet of footage appears to show off off-screen gameplay of both Mario and Luigi in an early version of Super Mario 64. If authentic, it's the first documented time Luigi has been seen in a classic N64 game, outside of a high-profile 2020 leak of classic Nintendo game files, which included a model for the character. And even if this is not Luigi, this is still footage of the multiplayer mode that Miyamoto's talked about before. I might be able to bring it up here. But yeah, this is pretty wild that still all these years later we can find documents like this, and it can get uploaded to YouTube and no one notices it for a month. Scott, how are you finding this? I think this is super interesting. What do you think?
This is so I love Mario 64. I love the community of Mario 64. It's very unhinged. So when the model in that Giga leak from 3 years ago came out, that was, that seemed crazy.
Yes.
So this is another level. This is how does this happen? 28 years ago, and we're looking at it. It's there, and no one noticed for this long. But I mean, they said it. They said, "Oh, we wanted to do is it the DD? They wanted to do the multiplayer thing for
64 DD. Yeah, I bet they did. Yes, and I mean, you're right. We have the Luigi model that is real. That was in the Giga leak. So I mean, it's definitely something they considered, and it makes sense at a certain point. They're probably just testing a bunch of ideas, but they made this game in 18 months, 2 years. They flew through development on this, so I bet there was a lot of ideas that got proposed and were quickly cut. So yeah, this is a pretty wild thing still that we're seeing this.
I don't want to dampen it because I think this is so cool. But would this game be a good co-op game? Would this have been?
No, I think that's probably why they cut it. It would have been really difficult actually for it to. Yeah, it probably would not have run well. I mean, especially if it was split screen early on. I mean, we've seen there's a great YouTuber who I'm not gonna be able to remember the name of, but if you Google this, you'll be able to find it, who has basically reworked and optimized Mario 64 to run much faster on the N64 original hardware, and they're getting 45 to almost 60 frames per second sometimes for a game that ran nowhere near that because it was so unoptimized, again because they made it so quickly and kind of had to slap it together. Here, let me get a closer look at this.
That the PC kind of, not official PC port obviously, but the PC port that showed up during kind of COVID time, there were mods for that put it made it co-op, I think, and that was cool. I don't know, I probably shouldn't publicly admit to I've never played a modded PC port of Super Mario 64, just in case anyone asks, but it seems like the type of thing that would have ran really well and been really cool and been maybe my favorite way to play the game since. But if I'd played it, but what a game though. I still, it's remarkable how much Mario 64 has aged well.
Yeah, I agree. It's for being that first idea of what 3D gaming could be like, they really nailed it right out of the gate to the point where it still really does matter all these years later, right?
I think Nintendo has such a knack for that. The first 3D game they really made, Mario 64, blew out of the water. First open world game they really made, one of the best of all time. They can't keep getting away with it, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yes. Totally.
It's still my favorite one, I think.
Now, here, let's see here. The other thing that I wanted to point out is okay, so people think this is Luigi, and I can see because it does look green at a certain point, but this is VHS, and I don't know. At first in the video, here, let's see if I can line it up again. When he's doing the spin jump, he actually looks red still, and then when he lands, it kind of suddenly turns green, but also it kind of looks a bit transparent too. But that could be the color shifting of the VHS, smudging after all these years. So it looks green here, but part of me is I don't know. I like that, the red from the tile behind him is bleeding through the hat in some way. So
I can see it. I don't know. I'll post the here's the Luigi models on the chat if anyone wants to compare, but I can see it.
Right.
I do think that is Luigi, but I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong.
It's very much the dress, blue or whatever, gold
Yeah,
sort of thing happening here. We'll make this will be today's poll question. We'll see if I can get a picture of this and put it in the poll. I think YouTube can do picture polls. Okay, yeah. So I mean, at the very least, this is really neat. And also, I just love any footage from Space World. I was such a Nintendo nerd as a kid, and always wanted to go to Nintendo Space World in Japan, which was basically like their own E3 that they had. And so seeing like what it was like is always very fun for me. And they should bring it back so I can actually go make that dream come true. Okay, let's go here. All right, Zelda producer shuts down the idea of a Zelda-style Mario Maker game. This is from My Nintendo News. A Zelda-style Mario Maker game would be great fun, and Polygon asked the all-important question, why haven't we got one? Speaking to Polygon, the Legend of Zelda producer Eiji Aonuma told the site that it's not something they have been considering as although the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom had the building mechanics, they don't want to make creativity a requirement. When we're creating games like Tears of the Kingdom, I think it's important that we don't make creativity a requirement. Instead, we put those things into the game that encourage people to be creative and give them the opportunity to be creative without forcing them to. But when asked directly about a Mario Maker style game for Zelda, Aonuma had an interesting answer about the nature of Zelda games and what they offer to players. There are people who want the ability to create from scratch, but that's not everyone. I think everyone delights in the discovery of finding your own way through a game, and that is something we tried to make sure that we included in Tears of the Kingdom. There isn't one right way to play. If you are a creative person, you have the ability to go down that path, but that's not what you have to do. You are also able to proceed to the game in many other different ways, and so I don't think that it would be a good fit for The Legend of Zelda to necessarily require people to build things from scratch and force them to be creative. Does that answer vibe with you? Does that register with you?
I think my answer is a question, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know if we can make this a poll. The Link's Awakening remake, did anyone touch that dungeon maker? Did anyone care?
Yeah, I played it for like 10 minutes. I tried it. I think there was some stuff you like had to do to unlock a few things, and it's not great. It feels very, very limited and in terms of, and limited both in what you could do and how much fun you can have. I
think in theory, a maker is cool. It's like, oh yeah, we can make a Zelda, but can you make a Zelda? Okay, so you either do the dungeon maker like Link's Awakening, which didn't really work, or you can do it, would you make a full game? Like, where does it stop with Zelda Maker? Yeah, I guess is the question.
And I see why people think it's possible, right? Because it's a tile base, so you just smash different tiles together. But you're right, Link's Awakening shows that maybe they could do more to make it more fun. But it's at a certain point, it's not a problem worth solving, because I think this answer is generally right, that most people want to play new games in the Zelda series, not necessarily make their own or even play weird ones made by their friends. And it's if you empower players with enough tools to make wacky Zelda stuff, at a certain point, very quickly, it's going to stop feeling like a Zelda. And then you start asking, what's the point? Mario Maker, it's like, oh, this stuff can kind of feel like within the realm of a Mario platforming level, and some of them even gets outside of that. But Mario can be a lot of things. There are certain expectations for Zelda that I think would quickly get sullied, and not that I would be upset, but it's like it wouldn't feel like Zelda. So what's the point? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, how long into Zelda Maker being out does it turn into like the top courses are all like, here's how you can listen to, I don't know, the SpongeBob theme tune in Zelda Maker, and it's like an auto scroller, or like, here's like 500 enemies on the screen at once, try to survive. Like, that's what Mario Maker quickly devolved into.
Yep.
I don't really think you can do that as easily with Zelda, but I don't. It's cool in theory, but does it work? No. Like someone mentioned in the chat, a Mega Man Maker, like that makes more sense, but Zelda's a bit too grandiose and too kind of, there's too much that goes into a Zelda for it to really work and not feel like kind of a half-assed kind of thing, because it'd either just be dungeons or it'd be like impossible to do,
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And what really at the end of the day, what I want is for Eiji Aonuma and the director of Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Fujibayashi, to keep going down the route that they're on, being happy to explore more possibilities in open world, fully open Zelda. and then I want Nintendo to find either other partners or other teams inside of Nintendo to make spiritual successors to A Link Between Worlds, which is like one of the best playing games of all time. I don't need them to like do all these other weird offshoots unless it's going to be like the rhythm game, Crypt of the Necrodancer with the Hyrule Hustle is what I want to call it. That's not the name. But yeah, like some like fun offshoots from like indie partners, something that I imagine they were going to do more of at the time and they haven't done. Do that stuff. You don't have to like replicate Maker and all these other franchises. Turns out Mario was the right one for that, and we can move on. We can just go back and play Mario Maker 2. Like that, we'll be fine.
I wonder what is the team who did the Ocarina and Majora's Mask remakes doing? You know, what is the team that did Link's Awakening doing? Are they the same team?
Yeah, so Link's Awakening was Grezzo, and I think maybe the Grezzo did those other two, but I'm not. I actually have no memory because I don't think I ever knew. But I think that could be right. And Grezzo taking on like, okay, we've done a bunch of these remasters / remakes at this point, and we've learned learned a lot about how Zelda works. We worked directly with a Nintendo EAD producer that has overseen Zelda before. So what if we tried to make something new that was like a sequel to like that? I mean, people want traditional Zelda. This is the way to do it. Just make it like, okay, so we had Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, and now a new game in that mold once again. And now this time it's from Grezzo. I would be very happy with that. But
well, I mean, they had Mercury Steam do the remake of Metroid.
Right, exactly.
And it do Metroid Dread, so like,
and if you think about it, we don't know, but come on, they're probably making a new Metroid, right? Yeah, I would hope so. So yeah, that's exactly what I want from Zelda.
But then it kind of leaves. Where does the 3D games go? Where's that kind of middle? Where's the Ocarina and Majora's Mask and all that go?
They probably do a remake of Ocarina of Time before we get the next major Zelda release, right? Because that's going to be so long. And I don't know. It makes a lot of sense.
Are we allowed to mention Wind Waker and Twilight Princess?
Yeah, we can. I don't know why they don't just release those HD versions, but they haven't. So yeah, that would be ideal as well if we can get those on Switch at the very least. But son of a bitch, Nintendo hates me, so they're not going to do that. All right. Zelda Boss is excited about next Nintendo console and what new things it can do. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Nintendo will eventually make another hardware platform, and there will eventually be another Zelda game for it. Neither are 100% confirmed, of course, but both are some of the safest bets anyone can make. Zelda producer Eiji Aonuma has now discussed at a high level what Nintendo's designers think about when tackling new hardware. Speaking to Polygon, Aonuma, who has worked on the Zelda series for decades and has been part of the team during multiple console transitions, laid out some of the areas that Nintendo focuses on. He said Nintendo's designers think about things like what can we do that's new, what will we be able to do, and what kind of new themes will we be able to explore. And so I think rather than focusing on the past, when we've changed from one console to another, it's more than a feeling of saying goodbye. It's a feeling of excitement. It's about what will be the new things that we'll be able to do. This is where I'm still very excited because, hey, the Switch I love, but at a certain point, that a team like the Zelda team was looking at a variety of physics and simulation things that they wanted to try, and they packed a ton in there. I still think about the way the chains work in Tears of the Kingdom and being mesmerized by that, and seeing a lot of other I've seen developers who were like, this is crazy that they put this in this game because it's so unreliable in so many games. Like it shows a level of confidence. But it's like, imagine what they could do if they had a little bit more power, next gen console power, and not just in terms of visuals, but in terms of physics simulation. So I'm very much looking forward to this. But do you expect them to take like obvious advantage of a new system, or is it just going to be like, man, now that we got Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they are going to stay in this rut for a while? What do you expect?
I think the biggest thing I expect is when the game gets revealed, it's going to have an art style, and everyone's going to be expecting, they're like, this is what graphics will look like in 2013, and it's like Twilight Princess, Link, and all. It's going to be an art style. It's not going to be like some amazing graphical powerhouse, because, like you said, they love these like weird physics things and these weird like interactions. That stuff seems more important. If they I think keeping the spirit of those two games is important if they want to continue doing it, but I do maybe agree. I think it was Aonuma said that the next game isn't going to be like Breath of the Wild 3, Tears of the Kingdom 2. It's going to be, it is going to be something new. But, I feel like it's, what do you do at this point, Because like, there's not really, you need to kind of keep this going because these are the most popular Zelda games now.
Yep.
But you need to, a lot of people still complain, oh, it's the same map from Breath of the Wild, even though, there's a lot of differences there. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe they take it somewhere new. Maybe they take it out of Hyrule. Maybe, I don't really know, but...
Yeah, Mike was speculating like, hey, like a Wind Waker spiritual successor to put it back on the ocean. That could be cool.
Just something, they need something big to kind of say, okay, we know you're tired of this same Hyrule. Here's, like the ocean or like the Link's Awakening Dreamworld place, something different. But I think if they need to find like a new physics gimmick. I think that's going to be the big thing from Zelda going on. Like before, it was like, here's the new items and dungeons. The new one is, here's this big new like power you can use. Here's building cars, or I don't know, give Link a gun or something.
Yeah, I mean, finally, he needs a gun. Just give him a Magnum.
I've been saying Detective Pikachu, the games, if they had him chain smoking and gave him a gun, 10 times better.
Yep, game of the year for sure. I'm right there with you. I think when I look at the limitations that are obvious in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it is, they made these worlds very sparsely populated for a reason. Like they built that into the lore, but it's because they didn't want to overtax the Switch in any way. And I think having a more populated world and maybe having better AI so that you can do more with the NPC characters and they feel more alive and more responsive. That seems like a path they could go down. But again, it's like, hey, that they're not going to do something that's going to completely derail them from the path they're on right now so suddenly. At the same time, it will be years and years before we get this next game. The wait between Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom was 6, almost 7 years, right? So kind of looking at that, like if it's that way again, the world could be very different. So they might have to be thinking outside the box in some grand way if they want to make sure that the investment that it's going to take will be worth their time. All right. Sea of Stars surpasses 4 million players in less than 4 months. This just came as a press release this morning. I figure we just kind of talk about, hey, this was in Xbox Game Pass. Was it also? I think it was also in PlayStation Plus. Yeah, it was in the PlayStation Plus Extra both. And Premium tiers. And they got 4 million players. And that's not like 4 million sales. That counts people who played it and those things. That's pretty good, right? Are we feeling good about these numbers for games that are in these services and are able to rack up millions of players, or should they be even bigger?
In a year like this, I feel like this is the best chance for Sea of Stars to be on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, because the word of mouth from that game was incredible. But we've got when we Sea of Stars, that was August, so you had Baldur's Gate 3 out. Yes. Starfield was about to come out, even though that was, shite. And then you had the October batch coming, So in a year like this, I think this is very good for Sea of Stars. I think maybe last year where it was a bit quieter, it could have been like a Celeste kind of thing, where like, Sea of Stars probably would have been up for like Game of the Year if it came out last year, So, I think it is good, but I don't know. Yeah, I think this was its best bet this year.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were playing it on the Switch, though, because it seems like a Switch game,
You're right. I think it still sold very well because of that, right? Like it got a lot of players on those other platforms and probably sold very well on the Switch. I think the thing that always throws me off is It Takes Two sold like 7 million copies. And I'm like, man, is that the level that we can expect for some of these games? And it's like, I think that was an anomaly. Obviously, it won Game of the Year, and that fueled some of that, but it was selling well even before all that. So when I look at numbers, it's easy to be like, hey, these comparisons feel off. But no, like Sea of Stars is a different thing, has a much narrower appeal at first, and so the fact that it's able to have success by going on Game Pass, be on PlayStation Plus, and then selling well on the Switch, reaching 4 million players, that's good. And as someone in chat pointed out, I missed the name. When you are going to pitch your next game and you're looking for investment from publishers or whatever, saying the last game had 4 million players is going to be very helpful in making games going forward. And then also being able to get your games in Game Pass and PlayStation Plus going forward, that also helps. And if you've had one success in there, those companies tend to be like, hey, yeah, if you want to come back and do your next one the same way, we are more than open to that. And the fact that you've got so many players, maybe we're going to pay you even better. So they put this out as a press release. They seem very happy with it.
I think it's interesting. I don't know if I can think of any other game that launched day one on both PS Plus and Game Pass.
I can't either.
Maybe something that, the word, when something comes out in Game Pass, the word of mouth, it's restricted to people on Xbox and Xbox and PC. When it's only on PS Plus, it's, restricted to PlayStation owners. But now it's like everyone can jump in, like, no matter what console you're on, this game is here. It's free for most of you, or it's free, but I think that's maybe an interesting experiment. I think we might see more of that going forward. I mean, obviously, some people will probably have like exclusive deals and all that, but
right.
I'd be interested to see if this makes more people put games out on both. But saying that, I mean, was it Stray? Was it a day one PS Plus title as well? So
yes, I think so.
Something in the PS Plus water that does it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think PS Plus has always been able to give games that extra juice. When Rocket League is the earliest one I think of launching on PS Plus and then turning into a phenomenon. Obviously, a big part of that is it's a very good game, but PS Plus can certainly have, I think, that out of the gate benefit to a game, even more so than Game Pass, where it's like, yeah, part of Game Pass, great. This is why Game Pass is great. With PS Plus, it feels like if it pops off on there, it's like, oh, that's because this is a great game. I know it's like a small difference, and maybe it's just in my head, but that's how I feel about it. Concept art from seemingly canceled TimeSplitters reboot appears online, and it's not the game is canceled, but it seems like these are from that TimeSplitter canceled reboot. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Following the likely cancellation of the TimeSplitters reboot and confirmed closure of developer Free Radical, alleged images and assets from the project have started to appear online. Free Radical was closed this month, just 2 years after it was established, as part of huge company-wide cuts at Embracer and its owned publishers. Now, following the closure, assets for this game have seemingly started to appear on the ArtStation pages of various artists who worked on the TimeSplitters reboot, as collected by the community-maintained Free Radical wiki. And these things are, mostly just like level art and stuff like that. A lot of it was collected on Reset Era. But, it looks pretty good. I think, it's concept art, so we can only glean so much from it. But at a certain point, it's like, man, trying to get a shooter going these days is difficult. How do you make it stand out? And at a certain point, just saying it's TimeSplitters, so we're going to go back to all these familiar settings. That feels like a tough hurdle to overcome. But I was still looking forward to this game. It's kind of a bummer. Does this make you feel any certain kind of way, seeing art like this? Oh, I think you might be muted.
The other way around, sorry. It's weird. I think TimeSplitters is in like a weird kind of place, because like anyone who was there at the time has such a great fondness for TimeSplitters.
Yes, definitely.
But if you release a game in 2023 called TimeSplitters 4 or whatever, is it there? Like, are the people there? Is the market still there? And obviously they were talking about it started off as like a Fortnite clone, but then you also run into the wall of there's 50 Fortnites out now. How many of them survive? Would it be another Radical Heights, or would it just be like another Titanfall 2, where it's like out, people love it, and then it kind of goes away? It's a shame. It's tough because I don't think there was any winning for them.
Right.
Like a lot of people would have loved to see this, including myself. It's not like I'm gutted. I think this is a bigger issue of Embracer Group being Embracer Group.
Clearly.
I think is the real problem here. Imagine like buying up a bunch of companies on a deal that wasn't done yet. Like, it's like this year has been bad, but Embracer Group's like another level entirely here, and it's like 2 weeks before the holidays, and they've laid off an entire studio.
Yep, they probably aren't even done yet. They probably have more happening before the end of this year. That's the scary thing.
A studio that's been around since like late 90s, I want to say. People like how does this happen? You know, how does like a mess up on this level happen as like, you know, what we've seen with Embracer Group, you know?
Yep.
It's tough. I don't know.
It's frustrating. And I think that when we try to figure out what would happen with Embracer, the sad thing is it's going to be like, well, it was the thing everyone kind of felt in their gut. Like every time this would come, we would talk about, an acquisition from Embracer on various shows or in various stories I would write, and be like, wait, well, you know, they haven't really stated what their strategy is, and everyone's wondering, like, well, they're just going to try to make a bunch of these games, or what's going on here? And it's like, well, they had not really thought about it beyond like, it would be good to be bigger. That's all they thought. It would be good to be bigger because then you could do more. And what is more was never well defined because they didn't really know. They just knew that bigger would be better for them in some vague way. And it's like, okay, but that seems pretty risky, especially if anything changes in the macroeconomic situation. And it did. And it immediately fell apart to the point where there is no coming back for Embracer. So yeah, this is a continuing tough situation, and one that would have been avoidable had had more thought been put into it. As far as TimeSplitters, like as a game and a concept, I do think about like those New Blood games, the boomer shooters on Steam that have a strong like visual identity. And you look at it and you're like, okay, I know what they're going for. They're trying to be like Duke Nukem. They're trying to be like Rise of the Triad, or they literally are Rise of the Triad. And I have a certain affinity for that stuff. I'm ready to show up. It feels like we are working our way up to being able to do that same sort of concept of, hey, a independent studio is going to take on this kind of game that you like from your youth, and they're going to do it with a lot of character and a lot of style. And when I look at the art for this, I don't get that sense. This feels like, hey, just try to make a AAA TimeSplitters modern game. And it's like, man, I don't know if that makes a ton of sense these days. That would have been tough to pull off. So, hey, I'm sad that this game isn't happening, but at a certain point, it's like, man, that would have been a tough thing to pull off.
I mean, who has pulled it off outside of Bethesda? I mean, that first Shadow Warrior was really good.
Yeah, sure.
But then the rest of Shadow Warrior was quite, well, I don't know about 2, but 3 was pretty rough. But other than that, it's been like Doom and Wolfenstein, and no one else has really kind of hit it yet. In terms of these like legacy franchises, obviously you've had stuff like Proteus and what was the one this year? Turbo Overkill.
Really, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So like there is a market there, but I don't know if there's a AAA market there outside of Doom and Wolfenstein.
Yeah, and it's I think Wolfenstein requires like this certain amount of extra, and Doom, like they both like figured out their lane and they went hard at it. And maybe TimeSplitters could have done the same thing, but it would have been very challenging. Like you're not getting a Doom or a Wolfenstein every couple of months from a bunch of different developers. It's 1 or 2 studios that really understand it. And I think it would have been tough for this new Free Radical to figure that out in a way that would have been wholly satisfying. But again, it's a shame they don't get a chance to try. All right. Godus and Godus Wars has been removed from Steam. This is from Brendan Sinclair at gamesindustry.biz. 22 Kansas pulled Godus and Godus Wars from sale on Steam. In an announcement posted across both titles' Steam pages on Thursday, the company attributed the removal to changes from a business partner. Regrettably, due to an upcoming technical change to Amazon Web Services affecting our ability to serve necessary game files to new users, these titles are to be withdrawn from the Steam store, the company said. 22 Cans said those who already have the game will be able to continue to play them. Godus launched on Steam Early Access in September 2013. Jesus. And the more combat-centric spinoff Godus Wars followed on Steam Early Access in February 2016. Neither Godus nor Godus Wars ever left Early Access on Steam, and they both mostly have negative reviews on the platform. Peter Molyneux says that you could still play Godus on mobile, where it's performing very well, or really well, he says, but who knows. I just brought this up because I think about Peter Molyneux sometimes. I know he's got some new Web3 thing he's working on, but that feels like whatever. I don't even want to pay attention to that. But man, the promise of Peter Molyneux going out on his own and trying something, and this being the Godus being the result of that tapping game where you tapped on the cube, Curiosity, I think it was called. And then the last player to tap on the last piece of the cube would get to help inform what happened with Godus. And it's like, man, there were so many ideas about making games happening throughout the crowdfunding era and all these things that you could do in the early access or early parts of the early access era, and none of it came to fruition. And it was just like, okay, this was all a pretty bad idea. Do you have any fondness for Godus or this era of Peter Molyneux?
When I got sent the rundown today, I was like, what is Godus? I remember the cube. I remember the cube happening, and I remember Godus technically. But Godus Wars? Nothing. I kind of blanked Peter Molyneux out my head for a while. So when I heard that he was making like a Web3 game, I was like, yeah, no, that tracks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel bad for the guy who tapped on the cube. You know, where's his money going? You know, where's his art, his piece of art, Godus going? But I don't know. I didn't. Did you play Godus?
No, I never played Godus. I like intended to try it out, and it was like another bummer where it's like, nah, this just seems like a bad situation.
Did anyone play Godus in the chat?
I think people like had some nice things to say about Godus Wars, but it was like, I think it was always in comparison to be like, oh well, this is better than just straight Godus. So hey, well, that's a nice thing to say about this, and that was it. But I don't think anyone actually liked that either.
2013 was maybe a good year for it when, you know, the SimCity stuff had just happened. And I think if it was going to blow up, it would have been then.
Yeah.
But, you know, now we have like Frontier and stuff like that putting out these like, you know, good city builders and good God games and stuff like that, you know. So I don't really know if it had a chance. I don't know, maybe it took a bit too long because is it still in early access? It never left?
It never left early access. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of tells the whole story right there, right? Where it's like they never really found a way to believe in it as a real product. Last story here. Max Payne star James McCaffrey has died at 65 after battling cancer. James McCaffrey, an actor best known for voicing the popular video game character Max Payne, has died after a battle with cancer. That's according to TMZ, but now we see that Remedy has also put out a post about this. He was an actor for a very long time, 35 years, but probably is best known as Max Payne. He also did the voice of, who's the character now? Wake, he did the voice of Alex Casey.
Alex Casey.
Thank you, Alex Casey. So yeah, you probably just heard him in a game. This is a real shame. Rest in peace to James McCaffrey. Did you hear about this news this morning? How did it hit you?
So I heard it this morning, but there was like some questioning,
right? Some confusion about it
this morning. Yeah, like I saw a post that was like, oh, I think it's someone from Remedy was maybe like, oh, we haven't heard anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, what can you say? It's gutting. You know, he's phenomenal voice actor. I can't say I've seen any of his live action stuff, but even from Max Payne, Control, and Alan Wake 2, it's like, you know, even like his voice is so iconic. You know, like I know Alex Casey's kind of meant to be like a Max Payne, but not really thing. But you know, he was good at doing that. You know, he was a very good actor. Interesting, you know, how all that kind of happened. You know, all the Alex Casey, Max Payne stuff. I wonder, actually, are they not remaking Max Payne?
They are remaking Max Payne. Yeah, I think they're making Max Payne 1 and 2, right? I think that's how it's going down. So isn't that kind of a real shame?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what the solution is there? And you know, it's a bummer in terms of thinking about preserving James McCaffrey's work and honoring it, and hopefully there's a way to do that. But you know, right now it's like just a shame that the man is gone after such a good and long career.
It's that kind of, you know, that David Bowie thing where like he just put something out. You know, he was just in a game. You know,
exactly. Yeah, I did remember watching American Splendor and being like, why do I know this guy? And then being like, oh no, that's James McCaffrey as this the like kind of side character in the middle of this HBO movie. So yeah, it was like cool to see him occasionally in some live action stuff. All right, and he definitely did a lot of acting, a bunch of different roles. So he's been in a lot of things. All right, I got a poll question from sometime in the past. Let me bring that up. Actually, before I do that, why don't you tell people, Scott, where people could find you, what you have going on, all that good stuff.
So you can find me on Twitter, S McCrae _ because I couldn't get the S McCrae name.
What can you do? I'm all over the place. My news stuff is mirror.co.uk/gaming. That's where you'll find me writing news and a bunch of reviews. I've just had an interview with Harada from Tekken Project go up on their YouTube channel, which, you know what, I will maybe link in there in the chat somewhere.
Yeah, there you go.
But you know, Twitter's probably the best place to find me. You will find my I'll post the stuff that I can curate what people see. You know, you'll see me talking about God Hand a lot. Someone's saying don't ask Harada shit about Tekken. He told me don't ask me for shit. I got him to say it. I said the word Street Fighter across Tekken, and he was like, "Nope." So you know, we did it. But yeah, I don't know. Twitter is the best place. You'll find me on start menu today with the best game of the year list you're ever gonna see. I'm
Hell
sorry.
yeah. The real game of the year.
The real game of the year. You know, no one can tell me any differently. You know. So yeah, Street Fighter 6 is the best game of 2023. Glad we all agree. But yeah, I don't know. I keep saying Twitter, but Twitter is the best place to find me. I refuse to call it the other name.
Oh yeah, sure. I hate the way it feels coming to my mouth. I did it once and never again.
Yeah, I refuse. We had the discussion in the news group, like, so what do we do here? And I was like, just keep calling it Twitter.
Just keep calling it Twitter. Yeah,
we're not acknowledging it. We're not. Did you see the Sonic the Hedgehog thing where it was like the voice actors doing one of those like live Q&As on Twitter, and they were dogging on it. So, you know, when you're getting made fun of by Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, if you are like a punching bag for Sonic the Hedgehog, you fucked up big time. Absolutely. All right, I got the poll question. Let's see here. Do you want a multiplayer Spider-Verse game from Insomniac in addition to Spider-Man 3 and Wolverine? Do we do this one already? You know what? Who cares? 20% said yes, 80% said no. Yeah, that's I would we did do this one. I refreshed. Maybe I didn't put up the last poll question. So, all right. Well, maybe we'll do 2 tomorrow. Everybody. Yeah, never did the new one. Okay, well, we'll fix that. All right, new poll question. Is that Mario red or is it Mario or is it Luigi in that thing? And again, I'll try to figure out how to post a picture along with it so everyone can see it. If not, I'll just link to the video so people can watch that. And we'll get that posted, and we'll talk about that on Game Mess Mornings on Wednesday here on Giant Bomb. I think we'll do one on Wednesday and not on Thursday or Friday, because then we'll be done for the rest of the week, and we got other things happening Thursday. But there'll at least be one more Game Mess Mornings this year. We'll discuss that here. Speaking of Giant Bomb, what else do we have going on? We should have a couple of things popping off this week. I think we'll try to do a Blight Club still. And then we're going to be prepping a few things for the rest of the year. Got a lot of guest lists coming in, Game of the Year guest list. Those will be going up over the holiday break. So look out for all that. Marino's got a bunch of them in the system already. So looking forward to reading some of those. I was like, I'm getting these sent to me, Scott, and I'm like checking on people's out list. A few people did have Starfield on their top 10, usually at like spot 9 or 10. Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. I played about like 8 or 9 hours, and I was like, yeah, I don't really like Bethesda games that much, but I especially don't like this one. I don't know.
That's really going to do nothing for you.
If you've got Starfield in your list and you haven't played Street Fighter 6 or Pizza Tower, I do ask, what's going on there? You know,
how much
time did you put into Starfield? Did Starfield have Mallow in it? I don't think it did.
Oh, I did miss this last story. Excuse me. Genshin Impact has a character named Gaming. What is happening?
Finally.
What is this? It's a post from the Genshin Impact Twitter account. Name, Gaming, title, Leonin Vanguard, or Leonine. It's Sorted Strongbox, Transport Guard, Vision, Pyra. All this is nonsense to me.
So, you know, there was a reason I'm on here today. I'd like to announce that I'm also called Gaming, and I will be coming to Genshin Impact in the near future. I don't know what does the name Gaming evoke in you? What type of character do you think he is?
Yeah, I suppose it's this nerd here that they've put into Genshin Impact.
I haven't actually seen him. I'll need to go look at the Genshin Impact Twitter.
Yeah, that is Gaming, all right. Gaming personified. All right, Scott, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I also appreciate it. So,
absolutely. Thank you all for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one Take care of yourself, and goodbye. Okay. All right. Good job. Thank you so much, Scott. Appreciate it. We are still hot mic'd. We are going to raid somebody. And I'm going to go to a meeting. Let's see here.